Welcome to the Road is Dead podcast. I'm your host, Rob Curtis, here in the studio. Joining me remotely, we have
Tim Strelecki.
Welcome back. This being post Nationals, back from Arkansas. When'd you guys get back?
Last night around 5 o'clock.
Nice.
PM.
Did you guys split the driving up into 2 days?
No, we drove straight both ways. We just took our time getting there and then took our time getting back, get out, stretch. It's a long drive. It's like 10 hours plus. Or like not 9.5, but it ends up being over 10 with, stopping and stretching and you can't just power through like a 25-year-old anymore.
Yeah, I've been noticing that when I get in the car anymore.
Yeah. Got to get out every 3 hours and stretch, use the restroom, get some food, take care of Oreo. So it's good.
Yeah, how's Oreo? How did Oreo handle the trip?
He's fine. He's fine. We have a little bed for him in the car, and we set him up real good, and he sleeps the whole way, which is good because our last little boy that we had, he had a lot of trauma and he hated the car. But we got lucky. Oreo likes the car. He's a little awkward when we get into wherever we're settling for however long we're there, but once he realizes that, okay, this is where I'm going to be for a few days, and my parents are here with me, everything's fine. I'm good. He's a trooper. He hangs in there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We left him in the Airbnb for race day just because it was absurdly cold.
Really? How cold?
Yeah. I woke up and it was 0 degrees.
You're kidding. I mean, I saw everybody wearing like jackets and stuff, and then I did text Darcy, and she said that you were trying to stay warm. But
Yeah,
I just figured it was like 40s or something.
No, it was, it was weird. It was a weird week. We got there on Wednesday. So I pre-rode Thursday, Friday, and it was, all week it was in the mid to upper 50s. Beautiful weather, short sleeves, pre-riding. It's like, yeah, this is it. This is good, and I kept watching the weather throughout, and I knew the temperature was going to drop, so I was prepared gear wise for that. I brought, everything, but woke up, it's weird when you practice in one environment and then for the day it's exponentially colder. I mean, it was as cold down there as it's been here, super duper cold.
Well, I mean, we got super cold last week. We were below 0, but what you missed.
Yeah, no, it wasn't below 0, but it was, I think when I woke up in Arkansas race day, it was 12 degrees, feels like 9 or something like that. So it was a shock to the system.
Yeah.
So I pre-rode Thursday, pre-rode Friday, and then I didn't go to the venue on Saturday. Our race was on Sunday, so I had, told Darcy, I'm like, I need to go Sunday just to kind of like remember everything and kind of go through the motions. So the only opportunity to really get on track before my event was the first session of the day, which was it was originally 7:15 to 8:30, but because of the temperatures, they had ended up making the start a little later. So the pre-ride ended up being from 7:45 to 8:30. So what they did is instead of starting the Masters 45 to 49 super early in the brutal cold, they pushed them back and let it warm up a few degrees before. So we went there for that pre-ride, and that ended up being a shit show for me personally. Like, I have a lot of dexterity issues with my hands when it's super cold, no matter what kind of glove I wear or heat hand warmers or anything. So I'm pre-riding with 2 bricks on the handlebars, trying to figure things out. And I'm like, I come to the barriers, and if for those of you that are listening that don't know, the barriers were in a really cool spot this year after a really screaming downhill. You make a left-hand turn and boom, they're right there. So they're uphill barriers, which, barriers on a flat can be challenging, and then these were uphill. So I went to like run them, and I ended up going too fast and dismounting too late, and I kicked the first one.
Yeah.
Completely yard sailed.
Yeah.
Yard sailed, jacked my knee up, and was like, Jesus Christ, this really like it'd been good up until this moment. Like, this is really happening to me right now. So I was a little deflated with that. Shook it off, did a few more laps, started formulating a plan, but I went back to the car. We didn't have a pit or anything. So I went back to the car and I just, for the next hour and a half, I couldn't get warm. Like I was freezing my ass off. Like even sitting in the car with the heater on, with the seat warmer on, I couldn't shake this deep
Yeah.
bone chill that I had. And I'm like, I'm completely not even into this right now. Like it got to the point where for me personally, 30 minutes prior to start time, I was ready to just pack it all in and leave. It's like I don't need this. Like I don't really care. And I wasn't mentally into it. But I put in all the work over the course of a month to get physically ready to do the event. So I went and, got a little bit of a warm up in on my rollers and went to the start line, and I was last call up on the first row. So that was a gift right there. Uh, Managed to get a decent start. Everything's going well, and it was one of those tracks where it was it was technical. Like there was a lot of high speed areas, but of a lot of the high speed areas, the field was very bumpy because it's, for those of you that don't know and haven't been there, obviously you know it from the World Championships when they had it there. They had a few um, cyclocross events there prior to the Worlds, and then it gets heavy use as a mountain bike course. Um, so it was very bumpy, extremely rocky, which on the first day of pre-ride, I blew out and double flatted my beloved PDX. So they are
Double flat?
pour one, yeah, pour
I,
one out for my PDX, which I'm upset about. But moving forward, so that kind of threw a wrench in my game. I had to formulate what I was going to do for the event. So I managed to settle on Baby Limas. I went with Baby Limas front and rear. Um, but anyway, uh, let me get back to what I was saying. Get to the start line, get front row, get a decent start. It's a long asphalt start, and it kind of goes into that kind of swoopy left, right, kind of up and down that was at the end of every race you've ever seen there. They kind of ran that course in reverse, headed out south. Got through that, made a couple moves. I was probably sitting by the first corner, maybe eighth. Made a couple moves to get up in the top five. And it was one of those tracks where the technical features really showed who was technically sealed. I mean, obviously you had the big long stair run up, which caused separation, but then immediately thereafter, you had a couple downhill portions and some loose flowy stuff, but then back to back to back, you had three very technical sections. And then you went by pit two, went down the hill, hit the barriers, came across to the start finish line. So the race kind of, it was a weird dynamic for me in the sense that I've never experienced a race dynamic like that, in the sense that it felt like I was in the middle of a crit. It was
yeah.
weird. It was, let's surge, let's soft pedal. Let's surge, let's soft pedal. And I like, it's just weird for me. I'm like, I started thinking like, what the hell are we doing here? Why are we going so slow? No one was really willing, myself included, no one was really willing to like dig in and turn the screws to really string things out. I think like 3 laps in, we had an opportunity to do so. It was Justin Robinson, who's a guy I've raced before, Meyerson and myself. We were kind of had, it was the three of us, and we had a little bit of separation, but none of us like looked back to check the gap to say, hey, we should really like get on it. So these three or four that are behind us don't come back on. Ended up coming back on, and it was a group of five that we kind of ended up by the last lap becoming a group of three with two others not too far in the distance. So it was myself and Meyerson and the eventual winner, Steven Sepko or Stefko, I think is his name.
Yeah. Stefko, I
Um,
think.
yeah, Stefko. So he eventually won, but um, yeah, I don't know. It's just, what it boils down to is on one of the technical sections, Meyerson was in the lead. I was behind him, and I had found this line earlier in the week in practice that helped me helped you maintain some speed over some technical stuff to get to a tight uphill hairpin. Uh, and so I made my decision. I'm gonna try to pass Meyerson here and get the lead before we descend and go back towards pit two and the barriers. And we ended up pulling even, sharing probably a half a dozen elbows on the way up, like stiff ones. And then we got to the apex of the corner to make the right hand turn, like on top of this little mound. And I lost my front tire and ended up falling into him and kind of and taking him down. Um, he got back up quick. I got up, noticed I couldn't shift. My right shifter, the paddle had broken off. So I had no shifting. So luckily, you know, you descend down the backside of the next turn and make a right hand turn, and pit two was right there. So Ty was there. I went in and got my B bike, and you know, by then I was in fifth. Um, so I just rolled it in for fifth, and then um, shared some very stern words with Meyerson after the race. From from me, and you know, I received some from him. We had a kind of a heated exchange. We went our separate ways after the podium. We calmed down, he calmed down, I calmed down, and then he and I ended up chatting for about a half hour about the whole situation and some other stuff. But it was an unfortunate situation. You know, it boils down to I had a decision to make. I made my decision to what I thought was good and to what I thought would benefit me in the final minute of the race. Because my only opportunity was to pass him after pit two into a very treacherous, and by treacherous I mean extremely rocky off camber uh, section, which if you carry too much speed into it and didn't respect it, a lot could go wrong. You know, more flat tires, or even worse, I'm in front and I carry too much speed and I crash and he gets caught up in it, and it could have ended up being worse than what we had experienced actually. So I made my decision to try to make the pass where I tried to make it, and unfortunately, it didn't work out. You know, it's two guys that want something really bad, fighting for the same spot on the track that really doesn't accommodate two people. It's kind of a one line portion, a one person at a time kind of thing. But as a racer, you get caught up in the moment, and you believe in your abilities, which I do, and you make the decision and you have a split second to either commit to it or back out of it. And I committed to it thinking that it would work, and it ended up not working. Um, because the whole race, my plan was like, and once I kind of figured out what was happening during the entire race, I was like, okay, this is how this is going to end. And it was setting up just exactly how I thought it was going to end. So if I had made the pass and got to the barriers, my plan was to hop the barriers because I knew I had that in my back pocket. I ran the barriers with everybody the whole race just to let them think that I wasn't going to do it or couldn't do it. But in the back of my
Yeah.
mind, I knew I had it in my pocket because I'd done it more than a half dozen times in the times that I pre-rode. So I knew it. But I also knew that every time we came to the barriers, that Meyerson didn't want anybody in front of him. Not that his running wasn't any better than, you know, the four of us or the three of us that were battling for it, but he was very technically good and solid at his remount and getting back in the pedals quick. So that was like, do I make it now knowing that I'm not going to have the run into the barriers that I need to have to get the speed I need to get over the barriers, to get the gap, to get the win? I made my decision to pass where I made it, and that was my, that was my choice. That was my mistake. But I stick by it. I stick by it. You know, it's disheartening when you're in the middle of it and something like that does happen, and your competitor disrespects you by saying some shit that's not nice while it's happening. So that's kind of a bummer. That's unprofessional in my opinion. So I addressed that with him afterwards, but neither of us were really in a clear headspace to process it like adults until we calmed down. Um, yeah, it's an unfortunate deal, and I hate that it ended that way. For not only for myself, but I'm not that's not my style as a bike racer. I'm not going to purposefully take somebody out
Right. Yeah.
unless they deserve it. Like if you've been an idiot an entire race and been cutting me off and been riding dirty, and I see you not only treating myself unsportsmanlike, but other competitors that are in the group unsportsmanlike, yeah, maybe you deserve to be put into the fence. But that wasn't the case here. It was just two guys that are competitive, that are in my mind at the top of it as far as masters athletes are concerned, that were just being competitive with each other. I mean, there's two sides to every story. This is my side. His side, I'm sure, is different, and he'll have and has different things to probably say about it. But that's none of my business. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's unfortunate. I blew a shot for him, but more so, I blew a shot for myself.
But yeah, for sure.
I certainly had the fitness for it. I wasn't in any way, shape, or form stressed throughout the duration of the race. All the running I had put in was running those stairs was a cakewalk. Remounting, I was never super winded. I was just, I think the energy I spent mentally before the event on the day of, specifically the 45 minutes before, really didn't didn't go away during the event. It kind of lingered, so I wasn't my true self, the go from the gun, smash kind of style that I am accustomed to doing. Um, so I won't necessarily say the best me was there at that event. Um, but what are you going to do? I mean, it's at the end of it, you know, it's bike racing. You make decisions in the spur of the moment, and you either are successful with your decisions or you're not. I mean, I'm not the only one that's made poor decisions like that in a bike race before. I'm sure he's made some dumb decisions like that in his race career, from in cyclocross and his professional career on the road.
Yeah. Oh, I'm
And what
sure. Yeah.
happens? You learn from those mistakes. In hindsight, I could have backed out and probably made the pass in a different area, and the outcome of the race might have been different. But
It
we'll never
it's
know.
interesting though that you say that you weren't really. I couldn't see any of the race.
Yeah,
They
nobody could. Nobody
they
could.
didn't televise it, which was
Mhm.
kind of bullshit because earlier they had said I could have sworn I read a time that meant that it was going to start right before your race. So I was
Hmm.
kind of looking forward to that. And I don't know if maybe I just read it wrong or they changed it day of. So the only thing we got is we're sitting there. Occasionally we got a couple words from Darcy along the side of the
Hmm.
course.
Yeah.
I chimed in once or twice in the team chat. And then outside of that, we just had lap times and going off the lap times. And so I got like 7.5 minutes of staring at the screen, hitting refresh, wondering what the hell's going on,
Yeah.
pacing around the house trying to see what the hell's going on. And
Yeah.
just seeing the times, and Julie was having a hard time like reading it. And I'm like, no, no, no. That's a big group. They're all together. And I gotta admit, when I saw Carlos was there and saw him go off early, because he apparently led the first lap or two, but then burned up and just
Yeah,
disappeared.
he blew himself up. He blew himself up, which is unfortunate. And I think he ended up getting a flat, either one flat or a double flat. Um, but you could see in the beginning that he was in the beginning of the race, in the initial laps, opening laps, Carlos was the only one that seemed willing to try to break the race up. If you've watched Carlos and you know Carlos, which I do from being his friend, but also racing against him on the road as a competitor, he on the road he's very successful with going and going and going and going again
Yeah,
until it eventually sticks.
yeah.
It's different in cyclocross, you know, um, just because of the track, of the race dynamic or whatever. So he was trying that early on. I don't know where he got his flat, but I eventually caught on with a few laps in, like he's no longer in the group. Like we were after the first lap, we were probably a group of like nine. And I was like, this is not good.
Right.
Someone here has to do something. And I wasn't, you know, I was kind of like, I was hesitant to do me because I knew I put respect into the venue in the sense that if you went into the red a little bit and didn't have the ability to come out of that at any point, you were dead because it seems like there was very few places where you could recover.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. So no recovery. So what was your general impression of the whole course?
I liked it. I thought it was good. Like it at first, your first laps initially when you get to a venue you've never been to before are like you're just trying to feel it out. When my first lap around, I was like, Jesus, this is worse than a Milwaukee Park. Worse than a Milwaukee Park. And you know what that's like, Rob. And for our
Yeah.
listeners here that are local that have raced up in the Milwaukee area, those parks are seriously bumpy. Um, so those were my initial impressions. I thought the layout was good. I feel like it was balanced. There was high speed areas. There was very technical areas that were back to back to back, meaning I don't know if you watched any of the elite racing on Flow or have seen anything on social media, but there was like three, what I'll call like humps, if you will. And they had like, you know, one was a short punchy climb that made a loop around under a tunnel. Then you hit the next kind of mound, if you will, which was an uphill left to a sharp off camber descent to the right. And then you had another one that was like a big kind of like a peak that you ended up always hitting on like an angle. That was like a peaked roller to like a small little dip to another a roller down to a uphill right left. And that's where I had my incident. But they were technical. They were slippery. The ground was hard as a rock. It was dry. It was dusty. Um, Zero mud. Um, but yeah, you had to respect the technical sections. You couldn't just like send it in there and feel okay. So there was a lot of tripoding. A lot of speed checking. But it was good. The start finish was obviously asphalt, so it's a big power section. The big loose flowy left hand turns after the start straight were nice. They were some bumps, but overall I thought the flow was really good. Um, it had some really cool like fast downhills to cool little like rises and tabletops, and they did a good job with it. I applaud them for the work that they did. It was a nationals worthy course if that's what you're looking for, if that's the answer you want.
Nice. I'm just wondering because whenever I've seen it on TV, it always just looks like a weird kind of course. Seems like a mountain bike course, not really a
Well,
cross course.
it essentially is, but I think in all the earlier iterations and what they learned in the years prior in the build up to, in those pre-worlds, World Cups, and then the worlds itself, I feel like when we all watched the worlds, or even if you went there, it looked, as you said, it looked like a mountain bike course, wide open, just fast, you know, 1 minute long effort to get up the long power line climb, which we didn't do. They didn't have that for us. Like the course kind of went that way, but everyone stayed high. So you only came out. Remember if you can dial it back and think about that long climb that they did in the Worlds from the bottom when they're going up, and then they finally hit like that little bump before they go under the bridge. We came out just south of that, just down track of that bump. So we didn't go like all the way down and have to do the entire climb. They kept it up high. Um, but I feel like they learned a lot from those iterations of those courses to say, let's not do that here. This isn't that level. Let's make it so it's more cyclocross like and it's fun for everybody. And I think it was. I think a lot of, from the juniors all the way through to the masters and the elite racers, I think if you were to survey everybody, they'd probably say they enjoyed 85 to 90% of that course.
Good. Well, they
I mean,
announced.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say they announced, or at least I saw an announcement yesterday that that's the venue for next year as well too. I don't know if that was already out, but it was news to me.
Yeah, I had asked someone after the race, and they had said it's a 2 year deal, so they'll be there again for at least 2 years. I think every 2 years it's a 2 year deal, no matter what
Sure,
they choose.
just not for
Which,
Kentucky.
yeah, true. Well, I'm not surprised with that one. I'm not surprised with that one. For many reasons. But I think it'll be better next year. I think they'll do a good job. I think they'll incorporate more of what they did this year. And I mean, it's a large piece of property, so they have a lot of things they can do with it. I mean, different, completely different story, different race, different dynamic, different everything if it rains. 100%. But this was bone dry. The the ground did not move under your feet. I mean, it was hard as a rock. Um, so just different. It was almost like a summer race in the middle of December. You know,
Interesting. Yeah.
I had to race like I said, the baby Linus, but in contrast, Meyerson, he's on a dune, and there's every tire in
Oh yeah.
between,
Yeah.
depending on what your comfort level is, the speed you want to carry, the treads you want to have based off of your riding style, and in this track for me, I felt like my riding style and the speed I wanted to go would be better served with a more aggressive tread because I felt like there wasn't anything that I couldn't hit with a lot of speed. And some of the technical sections, you were accelerating from almost a dead stop. So I wanted bite in the rear instead of like potential spin with a dune or a grifo or something like that or a chicane. Um, Plus, with all the rocks, you were forced. I think everyone was forced to run a higher pressure than they normally would have. I think I ended up
Nice.
running.
What kind of pressures were you running?
I had 24 in the front, 24 and a half in the back.
Okay. Yeah, that would be higher than what you would normally run around
Normally,
here,
I would normally I would probably run.
like 21,
I would run
22.
Yeah, maybe or 20, 20, 22, 23, but that's what I started my PDX on, and halfway through the first session, I blew him out. So yeah, I didn't feel it, but when I went to practice the stairs and my technique getting to it, it was like you come under a tunnel and you have to make a left-hand turn and you go up a little hump to a flat before you commit to the stairs. And I was unclipped, had my leg swung over the bike, and I went to make the turn, and my rear end just went, and I was like, oh, what's that? And I looked down, and it's just rim. I'm like, all right, well, these tires are done. And then
Yeah.
when I got home after the session, because it was like towards the end of the first session, when I got home back to our Airbnb, I noticed after I took my bike off the rack, the front tire was flat. And then I tried sealant and a little bit of sealant, and I pumped it up like 5 or 6 different times. I pumped it up to like 25, and within like 2 minutes time, it was down to like 18. So I'd spin it again, same pressure, and it just kept immediately losing air. I'm like, it's dead.
Yeah.
These are going to stay here. So now I got to figure out what I want to use.
It's almost honestly, in my opinion, all the times that I've done something like that to try to save a tire, it's almost better if it does that as opposed to actually work. Because when the
Oh
sealant
yeah,
works, in my opinion, it's like, okay, cool, great, sealed right up. But it's always going to be in the back of your head. Like, is this going to let go
yeah,
when it's got load on it or when I'm cornering hard or,
yeah. I just didn't. I wasn't gonna. Even if it did hold, I wouldn't have used it anyway because I didn't want to feel that feeling of pressure loss in the race.
yeah, yeah,
It's just you have to just get used to a different tire and figure it out. And that's what I did over the course of the next day and a half and figured it out. Got the pressures where I wanted them, where I felt comfortable, and didn't overthink it. Didn't obsess about it. You you put air in it, you put your pressures in it, you go out and you have a session, and then you feel like it's good, and then you come back and you sit for a while, and then you're getting ready to go, and you get on the bike, and it's like, ooh, this feels a little is this right? Is this right? And you start like you give it the squeeze test, and you're like and then it's just like just go to the start line. It's fine.
yeah,
Just go.
yeah,
So that's
yeah,
what we
for
did.
sure. Now,
It's
did you catch any of the other racing while you were sitting there?
no, I didn't. I watched a little bit of the junior race for the Wonder Twins, and they both did fantastic. Rode their asses off. I'm so proud of those kids.
Apparently, Ryder got
Um,
caught in a wreck right after the start, and
yeah, I saw some video of it. I didn't actually see it happen, but later I saw on the USA Cycling social media feed that they were doing. I saw the start of their race, and they showed the whole first, the whole start into that first turn. I could see Charlie had a good start, and I could see Ryder right behind him. And then it kind of like watches the field for a minute, and then it pans over to the first corner, and you could see Ryder's like fumbling. He's on his bike, but he's fumbling, like foot out.
yeah,
And I'm like, So I don't know. I don't know if he like caught a pole with his bar or if a kid had an incident in front of him. Either way, he got he got flushed down the back of the field and
yeah,
rode his ass off and got a well fought sixth place that
sex, yeah,
I know for a fact he was devastated
yeah, yeah,
about.
for sure.
It's heartbreaking when um, you hear a child distraught as he was, because Darcy and I parked right next to their RV. We had a space right next to them, and I'm doing my thing trying to get ready. Ryder comes back to the pit or comes back to the RV, looks at me real quick. He's, you know, almost purple from head to toe just because it's so freezing. But these kids like refuse to wear gloves. They
Yeah,
refuse to wear any, like, they're probably in a summer kit.
yeah,
He's just freezing. He's got snot just frozen to his face. And his teeth are chattering. He just mumbles sixth to me. And I'm like, oh, great. Good job, man. Like, and he just goes in the RV, closes the RV. And how can I say this without crying? You could just hear the pain in his voice. Like, he's in the RV, he's by himself, there's no parent around, and this kid is livid.
yeah,
Like, I understand that. And that, like, he's throwing shit, he's upset.
yeah,
And I've been there and I've experienced that, and I've experienced that exact reaction when things don't go your way because you put so much into it and something unfortunate happens. And it's kind of the story of my race, but I'm older and I can handle it.
right. Better
I've
handle it
been
better.
there. I've been there. I understand what it is. And I've said it earlier on other podcasts. I'm on the backside of my cycling journey. These kids are so good. Their trajectory is going up. And to have a little hiccup like that and to to experience that at a young age is both a good thing and a bad thing. And I went in there and first of all, I had to fend off like four
Six
dogs,
dogs. Yeah.
four dogs that are like, I don't know which one of these is going to bite my face off right
Yeah.
now, but I'm going to take my chance here. And by that time, Charlie had gotten back to the RV and he said he got fourth. He went straight in the RV. I congratulated him. Ryder was still not feeling good. And I went into the RV, uh, and I called out Ryder's name and he came out and I could see he was distraught. And I just gave him a big hug and told him it was okay. It's a bike race. You know, he's distraught in my arms. I'm trying not to cry in front of him because I really get what this kid is going through. And I just looked at him and was like, there'll be other races. Just do your best to shake it off. And I got out, left, I had tears in my eyes. And then Carrie came over. She was not in a good place. Group hug with her and myself and Darcy, and just one of those moments where
Yeah.
it sucks. Like it just
Yeah.
sucks. It just sucks because you've seen it. Everyone local has seen these kids from their infancy, and I've been around these kids since they've been 4 years old, and I've seen them get to the point of where they are now. And these two boys, mark my words, when they finally hit puberty, are going to destroy
Oh,
everybody.
yeah, for sure.
They're going to destroy everybody. Do you know why? Because their ability is far superior than any almost. It's probably right up there with some of the 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids. Their ability to ride bikes and ride them well and is phenomenal. And they have this grit and this determination like I haven't seen in any other youth.
Yeah.
So
Let alone in most adults.
right, once they hit and grow and are able to put on muscle and do all the things that puberty does, they're going to destroy people.
Yeah. No, I
But
totally agree.
they need to just they can't explode before they get there
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
because
it's a
that is
balancing act. It's hard to do.
yeah, and they're in great hands with the program that they're in. I don't think Ty or Carrie, as their parents, will let that happen to them.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd
Um,
agree.
I certainly won't let that happen to them. Not that I'm in their, part of their program or anything, but they know that I'm always there for them and I always will be. And Ty and Carrie both know that. Um, but yeah, that's the problem with the youth of today in whatever genre of cycling they're in. They just want to be Tadej Pogacar. They want to be Keegan Swenson. They want to be Chris Blevins, but they don't understand that those guys or any pardon me, any other top female in the sport as well. Same for the women, the young girls that are in the sport. Um, they don't understand that those people, both male and female, have gotten there over decades. And I'm not so sure that the parents of these children understand that. Some, and my hope is most do, but there's some that just push and push and push and push
Yeah. It's like a lot of
and and
sports.
and burn their kids out to where their
Yeah.
kids don't even want to see a bike by the time they're 16.
Yeah. I won't. Uh, we've had similar situations. You see it in all sorts of different sports,
Hmm.
Um, the closest one that I would say that we've had, and this isn't meant as any kind of offense, and I don't know of anything any specifically, but I know there was talk that there was things like that going along way back when with the Dave and Chris Lombardo era, where Chris, his
Yeah,
father, was pushing him hard,
yeah,
and I remember Wayne at one point telling me, here I am watching this kid doing, over unders or whatever, like heavy threshold level workouts when he's, 10, 11,
Nine.
12,
Yeah.
and it's like,
Yeah.
and I remember him saying, I told Chris at the time he's going to burn him out, but that didn't happen. He ended up going to Worlds. He raced on the junior team for the U.S. when he was still junior. He ended up racing road for Hagens Berman at one time, and
Yeah.
but then he got through college, or in the middle of college or towards the end of college, he just kind of went, wiped his hands of the whole thing, and to my knowledge, has walked away from it.
Yeah. I haven't seen or heard anything from the kid. I mean, I've raced that kid a couple times, and he was always at the front end of the race,
Yeah.
no matter what.
I mean,
He was
great
good.
kid. He's got talent. He
Yeah.
could definitely come back to it. And if any of us are kind of the measure of that, I don't. Your experience being what your experience is, I obviously never achieved anything, but I was heavy into it as a kid. Got kind of burned out. Took my time away from it, and then found it again later in life, and love it. Absolutely love every minute of it.
Yeah.
And I always hope that for individuals like that the same kind of arc happens, that they'll
Yeah.
come back to it. I will say, as an aside, my son, who has done everything other than accuse me of abuse for making him go and race his bike while growing up.
Hmm.
um, I feel the need to clarify that a little bit. Obviously not abuse, but um, he never did anything. Never went out and did anything.
Yeah.
Didn't do any other sports, didn't do any other activities really. And my thing was, you're going to try things at least, and you're going to try this. And we made him race. And it was like, we're going to be out here all day anyway, and you're going to be here with us anyway. You might as
Yeah.
well put a kid on and put a number on and just experience it. And he experienced a lot of failure while doing it, which he was not. I think if people remember the old shop, I've got the big picture display of his first race, and there's one where I'm hugging him, and he is just bawling
Yeah.
because he thought he was going to win his first race,
Yeah.
and then he goes out and gets his butt handed to him. But
Every time I ever saw Parker racing,
well, that's
are you talking
Parker.
about Parker?
No, I'm talking
Are
about
you,
Andrew.
you were talking about Andrew. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Andrew didn't start having fun until he grew and he could,
Yeah.
engage in the hand ups.
And so he had fun his last few years of racing. Then
Yeah.
had the audacity when he quit to be like, because he hadn't raced his last year. I don't think he had a
Mhm.
girlfriend, and just didn't want
Yeah.
to do it anymore.
Yeah.
He had the audacity to basically say, you tortured me by making me race all those years. I didn't want anything to do with it. You made me do it, and said it was some of the worst experiences I've ever had, that kind of thing. It's like, geez, man, really? It's just bike racing. And sure enough, I sent him, there was a memory that popped up the other day, and it was of the old Region Riot cross. And it was the first time he raced hard on his own because he wanted to.
Hmm.
And he was in the juniors, and he landed on the podium. And
Yeah.
uh, he beat, he was in second place, and he beat Sean Minalga, who's in third in that
Hmm.
particular race. He was super proud of that. I took pictures of him and everything, and that popped up in my memory. So I saw the picture. I just sent it to him in a text and just said, "Hey, this was however many years ago." And he came back and he goes, "That was a really good day. I had a lot of fun with that, and it was very rewarding." And then he came back with, "Okay, I guess I got to admit, not all the racing and riding was bad." It's
Then he
like,
sent you. Then he sent you another message that said, "Get me a kit."
no, 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 no. And I joke with him all the time. I'm like, if you're going to be here, after his first year of college, I was like, hey, you can go on a gravel ride with us, and yeah, maybe I should do that. And then never hear anything about it ever again. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
I get it. Kids do what kids do, and they leave things, and usually around college. And when they discover all sorts of wonderful things like other people and mind altering
Yeah.
substances and ways to express yourself, but
Yep.
they usually come back because it turns out, as we find out, um, as we get older, you are who you are, and you're going to come back to who you are. You can't, you can only fake it for so
Yeah.
long, or try
Yeah.
other things in the name of experimentation for so long.
Yeah.
Anywho, but no, yeah, Parker, yeah, he has absolutely zero interest in racing at all in any way, shape, or form. But
Every
hey,
time I've ever seen Parker when he's out on the course, he looks miserable, like he doesn't want to be there, which he doesn't, but he's like, I'd rather probably be doing math right now.
yeah, for sure.
Longhand calculus or long form calculus or
It,
something like that,
and
solving the world's problems.
not to bore anybody with this, but he's achieving all these great things in school now. But he
Good.
came back yesterday, and instead of eating, he didn't want to eat. He wanted to work on what he was working on, and he was drafting. He was creating a governmental party for his math class, and he said he already had an opposing party, and that he's already recruited quite a few people to his current one, and he had to draft a constitution / manifesto, and then print it out so that everybody could have a copy, and then write all sorts of articles to adjust it, and it's just like, dude, people don't do
It's
this
like
for
a
fun.
it's
This
like a
is not
modern
what
day
you do.
Sheldon Cooper.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
This is after
Yeah.
his near encyclopedic knowledge of tanks has led to him getting like 400 Lego tank kits for his 13th birthday that he has been building nonstop. So, yeah,
Oh, that's
interesting
good.
kid. He's very similar to me in a lot of ways, but he says he wants to come here and work. I don't know why. I have no idea why. But anyway, so I do have to get down to Arkansas at some point and see this whole thing. Maybe I'll be able to go next year. Who knows? I
You're not going to
know
be able to go, Rob, because it's always
always
around Parker's
near
birthday,
Parker's
and
birthday.
you won't leave Parker for his birthday.
I know.
Maybe you
Maybe I
will
can
when
bring
he's
him.
maybe you will when he's like 30, but in the interim, you're not going to.
Well, hopefully, if it's still in Arkansas when I'm 30, I'm going to be very upset because I do want to see it go to
I
other
think
venues.
everybody will be. I think everybody would be if it was there for the next unforeseeable future, which who knows? I mean, the USA Cycling mountain bike team is housed in
Yeah, it's based
Bentonville,
out there.
so
Yeah.
maybe they're trying to create the same thing with cyclocross. Who knows?
Oh,
I
I doubt
mean,
it. It seems like it's strange because it seems like cyclocross is strangely become the wasteland of cycling. At different, it is at both times the most exciting and leading discipline within cycling in this country, in my opinion, for a lot of different reasons, and at the same time like a wasteland. It's just so weird. And I feel the need to defend that a little bit. When it comes to USA Cycling, okay, national championships. We just had a national championships where both of the current holders of the national championships did not come back to recontest it. And they had perfectly valid reasons for not doing that. Uh, it just seems to me like, if it was a premier sport or premier discipline, that we would do it, that they would come back and do that. I'm not saying that they should have. Do you know what I mean? It's
I think
they made
both
the
of them
right
realize,
choices.
yeah, they have bigger goals that are beyond American cycling.
Yeah. So,
You know,
you look at all that, and that's where it's like, oh, well, we're not really doing much. Um, we have, uh, at least on the women's side, we don't have it right now. We will in a few years, I have a feeling. Some of these riders are just amazing. Let's just hope to God that they stick with the sport long enough to develop into like really, really good racers. It was good to see Lizzie Gonzalez actually, win. You've been around, you've seen her. She's come and raced our races before. When she was out in Marion, they would come up.
she's very good.
Yeah, she did wheeling 1 year for sure. So it was fun to see her win, and then the sisters, not too far behind her, putting the work in. So I mean, we've got talent there, and it's coming up. It's just, it's just not there yet.
It's all in the development of it.
Yeah, yeah. On the men's side, I don't know. It is what it is. So in that regard, I'm like, it's kind of the wasteland of disciplines right now in this country. But then again, we don't really have that on the road side either. But
No, and I guarantee you this is my personal opinion. You can love me or hate me for it. I really don't care, but I don't think George Hincapie's modern adventure cycling is going to save American
well, it
cycling.
ain't gonna do shit.
It's not. No matter what clickbait article you read or anything like that, it's not going to
Yeah,
save American cycling.
I wholeheartedly agree, and we can get canceled for that if you'd like. I don't really care when it comes to that one because there's no love lost there.
No.
Just in general, and even if I cut Hincapie all the slack in the world, and put any personal feelings aside, which I can do when it comes to Hincapie for some reason, um, it's just not. It's not going to work. I mean, what are you going to do? It's not going to work. Um, Now, is it time for an organization like? Is it time for another American-based, pro tour team to do well? I'd like to see it. And by do well, I mean exist for more than one season, or a handful of seasons.
Am I
Um,
am I am is EF the only American still the only American registered team?
to my knowledge, yes.
Okay.
So you know, that's like a dream come true if it's going to be more than one, if they are sustainable, if they exist. Um, if EF has to go away, then EF has to go away. I don't really care. Um, I don't know why. It would be interesting. We don't have Mike here, but it'd be interesting to get his take on it because that's the team he used to race for, in
I mean,
essence, back
even
when it was
though
Garmin.
you can even see it in Andrew Strohmeyer's approach to not being a nationalist. He realizes I'm not going anywhere. Even if I get five more of these jerseys, it's not going to mean anything for me in America. I need to come here. I need to prove myself here so I can get a contract with a European team so I can actually make a living racing my bike.
Yes, I mean, it's the
That
old
is that is the
playbook.
best. Yeah, it's the best strategy you can do. You want to be good at a bike racing? Go to Europe and race your bike.
Yeah, and he's been, in my opinion, doing well at it.
Oh, he's been phenomenal. It's so great to see him on screen, like up in the front, no matter where he places. I mean, it's for someone that, myself and you, Rob, that love cyclocross, it's great to actually see an American up front. Like when Hyde would be up front for a while, or Powers would be up front for a while, Tim Johnson would be in the front for a while, who, by the way, I actually had a pleasure of meeting, shaking hands with, and having a nice conversation with, which was probably the highlight of my entire trip. Um, but yeah, it's so great to see those guys up there doing well, and that Strohmeyer is invested in it, and he's making a change in his lifestyle and his life and his priorities to actually try to do it. And I hope that he pulls it off.
Yeah,
I really do.
yeah. That cyclocross, in my opinion, and people can disagree with me on it, but it's one of those where if you're at that kind of level, I truly think that you can connect enough dots in Europe to at least have a subsistence go at it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think he keeps doing well and keeps showing himself at the front of these fields and finishing in the top 15. That's if I'm a scout for a European team, I'm taking a look at that for sure.
Yeah, and by the flip of that, in my opinion, and you can agree or disagree, but the flip of that is Caleb Swartz, in my opinion. So the opposite,
Yeah.
ditching cross and just going full on to the gravel side. And I
Well,
don't, I've known Caleb, you know, uh, since I don't know, since he was 11, 12, something like that. And it's
I
just,
think
to me, it feels like a loss.
I think a lot of that is I'll put it this way. This is just from a fan of the sport perspective and knowing what I see on television and in person at the races and through some social media channels. There is a big difference between Caleb Schwartz and Andrew Strohmeyer in
Oh,
ability.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So, and results and proven race finishes, and opportunities given. Let's not forget that.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Caleb has probably sensed, within the last year or two that his time racing cross in Europe or trying to do the thing in Europe. Wasn't working out. So gravel for him was the option because why? That's what his sponsors want him to do.
Yeah, it's a very valid point of view.
That's where your visibility is. That's where you're going to help the brands you're partnered with sell the most product. That's where we want you to go, regardless of what you want to do.
Now, I totally agree with that. And in my opinion, though, I think some of this conversation changes when slash if we get this full on Olympic thing going. It's supposed to be in the Olympics. There's a lot of things going back and forth. And a lot of people, I think, when they hear that, are going to go like, that's not that big of a deal. It's not going to be that big of a deal to have it be in the Olympics. Unfortunately, it actually is, because the way that our country supports this sport is through Olympic achievements, period. So the money that comes into our sport comes into it through our government, and it goes to our national governing body with the intention of grabbing medals. They will not ignore opportunities to grab medals, meaning they won't be okay with the USA Cycling that says, but we do work on the track. We do work in BMX, even though USA Cycling doesn't do it. They do at the Olympic level, but as you know, BMX is run by USA BMX or whatever it is.
That's the national governing.
Yeah, but for international competition, they're run through USA Cycling.
Yeah. Not to cut you off, but even in that respect, with BMX being in the Olympics, there's a lot of BS with that.
Yeah,
going on.
Yeah,
currently. So who knows? I mean, I'd love to see it, and I think you're exactly right, Rob. I think the support of this genre of cycling in America is contingent. Its success is contingent on if it gets into the Olympics.
Yeah, I truly think that when it gets into the Olympics, and I think it really will. Now, I'm starting to think that now. That when it does, like I was saying, it's not USA Cycling can't sit there and say, but we do okay in these others, mountain bike and everything else, so we're good. We don't really have to dedicate a lot to do it. That's not how it works. The USOC basically just says you got to get medals, man, and there would be a certified effort to try to do well in cyclocross.
I just had a thought. What do you think about this? Okay, so cyclocross, full on, 100% committed to the Olympics. Like it's in, no doubt, right? In order to grab those medals, does USA Cycling go to a Chris Blevins? Hey, you used to race cross. Guess what? You're going to race the Olympics for cyclocross to try to guarantee us a medal, or at least be in the conversation of a medal grab. Are they going to dip back into the mountain bike pool and start pulling the riders that have cyclocross experience out to make the team and shit on all the other riders that are trying to do that?
I don't know enough of the politics behind it, and without knowing those riders or any of the backstories, it's very flippant for me to say this, but I would say, yeah, absolutely. Because USA Cycling's position is going to have to be to grab whatever medals they can. Yeah. And if that means that, especially if it's a winter sport and you're not hitting these guys in their peak season, they're going to grab. And they're going to be like, yeah, you're doing this. It'll be a huge slap in the face to anybody racing cyclocross. But let's face facts: we've had some of the best cyclocross racers leave the sport because they can't make money. And we've had a lot of them never even look at it because you can't make money or can't make a living at it. If we start throwing money at it as development because we need to in some way, shape, or form, even if it's a tiny bit, that's enough to get some people to do it. Yeah.
The sport resurges again.
Yes. We see popularity again. We see venues again. And by God, you actually see a couple fucking companies get off their asses and actually relabel those shitty gravel bikes as actual cyclocross bikes again.
Yeah, and you have more junior programs developing. better junior programs developing. Not to say that the junior programs that exist right now in American cyclocross aren't good. There are
There's some really good
definitely
ones.
there are some really really good ones in there with a lot of top talent that is making its way, and making starting to make names for themselves in Europe, through the ECA and things like that. So that we can hold on to that hope right there.
Yeah, and
But I'd
it's
be curious to see what happens.
yeah, for sure. I think it's one of the. I'm not going to sit here and say it's the only thing that would quote unquote save us, because that's not true. I think we there's other ways that we can do okay as a discipline, but I can say I feel comfortable in saying that if it were to get into the Olympics and actually be in there long term, it will have a very good impact on cyclocross. Um,
Yeah,
like a
yeah.
very good impact on it. So
Because I mean, I think in my opinion, I don't think like the barrier of entry cost wise into cyclocross isn't that high. I mean, you could borrow a bike. It doesn't have to be the bells and whistles. It doesn't have to be some $12,000 mega aero bike. It's
yep,
just got to work.
dude,
You can use mechanical shifting. Guess what? It works awesome. You can use tubeless if you need to. Guess what? It works. The
there
barrier to
is
entry isn't like gravel or road or any
yep,
other discipline.
there is. I wholeheartedly agree to the point. Even gravel. I mean, look at how expensive it is to enter the race. Look at all the
It's
travel you got
ridiculous.
to do it, and then you got to have the
But
support after the fact. But
yeah,
so, and there are people that complain, well, for cyclocross, you need two bikes, you need six wheel sets. And
nope,
well, okay, if
you
you're going to
don't.
do an international campaign, and do
Yeah,
a bunch of World Cups, then sure, you know. And by the way, I have personally supported riders who have done World Cups where they just have an A bike and a B bike. Okay. And that's the
yeah.
limit. And that's kind of, and they don't even match. Okay. It can be
Dude,
done where they
for
don't even match.
for
So,
the majority of my cyclocross career, I've been a one bike Mike.
yeah,
Like I only have an A bike.
so there's an interview of me out there in Cyclocross magazine back in like 2011, maybe 2012, and in that I make an assertion. I don't remember the verbatim, so forgive me, but I go back to it because even then I said that cyclocross was the future of our sport in America, and by that I very specifically meant it's a discipline that can be done in any piece of property in this country. You can do it, on school grounds at a school. You can do it in any little park or forest preserve anywhere.
Mhm.
Um, and I said that the beauty of it is we go into spaces during a time of year that are unused.
Mhm.
So these parks are not being used in the fall.
Right.
It gets cold, it gets rainy. Those are the times we love to be there, and those are the times where no one else wants to use that property.
Right.
I think as promoters in this country, we get too fixated on being on the key piece of property. So, we run into battles with the groundskeepers and how much money they want and this and that, instead of just going, you know what, screw it. There's a lot of land in this country. That is the one thing that we have. And there's plenty of venues. We can find other venues, that will
Yeah.
work well. So I think the number of venues that we have is not even remotely tapped at this point. Um,
Mm.
that's a personal opinion, but it's to me, it's you. This is a discipline you can run anywhere.
Yeah.
You can make it as small as you want, the course, and it will still be feasible. And you can get anybody into it on any bike that they've got.
Yeah.
It's not equipment dependent. Even at the lowest level of road, you've got to be on a road bike, for all intents and purposes, and you're going to be
Mhm.
practicing out on the roads. And my whole thing was even back then, 13 years ago or whatever, that you know you don't have to go on a car on to roads with cars in order to do
Right.
cyclocross. And then if you're going to
Yeah.
develop this in high schools and whatever else, this is a school sport that can happen on the school property.
Mhm.
You don't have to get kids out on roads and
Yeah.
mixed in with carts. That's why I've always felt that it was really the future of it. And let's face it, gravel's not the future. Gravel is a huge expenditure in time, in resources, and getting away from everything. Which is it's an escape
Gravel.
thing,
Yeah, it's trendy. It's what's hot right
right?
now, right? Guess what happens when it starts to become more professionalized than it is right now, and actually, like, the spirit of gravel is never spoken about again, like
Yeah,
it's 6 feet under
yeah.
because it's so professionalized.
Right now, it's just in
That's
the
going to
morgue.
drive, right, that's going to drive people away. The cost which you're speaking of, Rob, is going to drive people away. And not to make matters worse, you're doing on road speeds off road with
Right.
people that aren't very technically skilled on somewhat closed back roads. All it's going to take is one bad one. And guess what? People are going to go, yeah, it's
Yep.
not for me anymore.
Open roads, where you can have a car just about anywhere. It's
Open
just a
roads
recipe for disaster.
with a giant pack of people that can't see around them because they're in a cloud of dust, hitting potholes and getting pelted with rocks, going balls to the wall through a four-way intersection in the middle of nowhere, America. Guess what? Oh, here comes this John Deere nobody called out.
Yeah. I mean, I get that it's fun. I get that it's trendy. I get that it's enjoyable to do it. I do it. I do plenty of it, and I do enjoy doing it. But to me, all it really is, and the feeling that I get from it, is the same feeling that I used to have in road races when we had actual road races. It is the future of road racing in this country
Yeah,
because we have no ability to conduct a road race
right.
the way that it's supposed to be conducted. So what we have to do is we have to rely on this pseudo, you know, take your life into your
And
own hands bullshit road race.
I feel like a lot of this is my opinion, but I feel like a lot of the people that are so ingrained with the whole gravel thing don't understand that you can get the same experience in a 40-minute cyclocross race
Exactly.
and the dopamine hit in a 40-minute cyclocross race that you get in the first 3 hours of your 10-hour journey on a bike
100%.
at an eighth of the cost.
And I sign up, so I still sign up for like Barry and I do the short course. I signed up for Dirty South Roubaix and I'm doing the short course.
Oh, did I
And
miss Dirty South
I
Roubaix
think
then?
it's still open, to be honest with you. It seemed
Oh,
like
I
it's
like
been
that one.
staying open.
That is a good one. I like that one.
Uh, I do the short course on all these. And it's kind
Yeah.
of like, people are always like, well, why do all the driving to go down there to only race 30, 40 miles? And it's like, because a couple things like Little Apple, I always do the short one.
Hmm.
And people always go, why do you do the short one? Let's do the long one this year. And every time I think about that, I think back to all the years that I've done it. I have never once been at the finish line there thinking to myself, God, what this is really missing is twice as much time. Because the reality is, I'm going to empty my tanks if it's 36 miles or if it's 62 miles. You know,
Yeah.
it's all
Yeah.
about I can get just as much out of it over the short course that I would get over the long course. It just
Yeah.
why be out there longer for absolutely no reason other than I have nothing else to do with my life and I just like being out on that road. I totally understand that wanting to get
Yeah.
away, and just being away from everything. But you can, in my opinion, you can get a race done with in a couple hours. You don't
Yeah.
necessarily
Yeah.
have to spend 6 hours doing it.
No, and I think what else is going to hit in the gravel scene is I think that a lot of people are going to realize that all this, if they want to do well and they invest their time and their money into doing well at whatever events and distances they choose, I feel like they're going to start to realize that it's not healthy for them. I think I think having ungodly amounts of sugar in your system
Oh
for
yeah,
that long, uh, 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 of a period of time throughout the course of your day is disgustingly unhealthy.
yeah, I would
And
wholeheartedly agree.
I'm not a doctor. I don't know. I don't claim to know. I just know that that's probably not healthy.
Yeah, Yeah,
Neither is pushing your body to a limit and beyond for that long. You want to do well and you're in the middle of July in Kansas and you're dead on the side of the road. That's not healthy,
yeah. Not to
you
mention
know.
the mental impact of all of that.
You know
Um,
what? Come out to yeah, exactly. You're right, Rob. Come out to a winter cyclocross where you might be cold on the start line. 10 minutes in, you're going to be warm. 20 minutes later, you're going to be done and you can get in your car and go home.
exactly.
And
And
be
by the
warm.
way, you can. How many people have we heard over the years that have tried cyclocross that are roadies or whatever else? They try cyclocross, they get to the end, and most common thing I've ever heard from everybody after their first cross race is, quote, "That's the hardest thing I've ever done on a bike."
Yep.
That's the thing.
Straight
I
up.
mean, it's you can go harder than you will ever go in any gravel race doing
Hmm.
cyclocross. Period.
Hmm.
And you know what? If it's not enough of a workout for you, go harder. You know, I mean, it's you can always get your frustrations out, and you will be completely done in that 45 minutes or whatever. By the time you
Yeah.
get to the end of it.
I mean, I don't want to sit here and like again poo poo on gravel. If that's your thing and you love it and you're invested in it and you're good for you. But I've been there, I've done that. I found that I don't I don't want to do that and to myself anymore. Like I made a deal with myself long ago where it's like I will not race anything over 100K. If it's 100K or less, I'm all in. If it's more than that, I want nothing to do with it.
I
I
totally,
want
I
nothing to
totally
do with it.
agree. I mean, granted, we're at, different levels for this, but I would stretch out to 100K if the opportunity was there and I was really kind of into it. I signed up for the 100K at Dirty South last year. Glad I only did the short one. And guess what? I'm going back this year and I'm doing the short one intentionally because I was like, that was damned hard as it was anyway. And I
Like
can
I
always
was
go
thinking,
harder.
yeah, I was thinking earlier when before Barry Roubaix sold out, I'm like, maybe I'll do the 36, but I'll do it on a mountain bike
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
have a totally different experience and
Yeah.
not have to be like stressed out in the front of the 62 race where
Yeah.
I probably don't belong. Uh, you know, even if I was on the day of days, it still don't belong there. But 36 on a mountain bike where I'm just probably going to be by myself, that's a challenge, but I missed it.
Unfortunately, yeah, but by yourself, but not unless you're starting way. But I have never been by myself in that race.
Yeah, I mean, you're always with somebody or you catch
Yeah.
people or they catch you or whatever, and you can always finish together, but still, it's a different challenge. And I was like, man, I should have done that. That would have been good. To each their own, but if you want to keep your season extended, try cyclocross.
Yep. Oh, for sure. All right. Now we're heading to the end of it. Anything left to wrap anything up with? Any thoughts you want to leave anybody with?
No, I mean, I don't know. Don't give up on yourself. That's all I could say. Whatever happened to you this year, if it was better than you expected, fantastic. If it was not what you expected in whatever you're doing in your life or trying to achieve, whether it's cycling or something else, and it didn't go the way you thought it would, don't give up on it. Keep keep your nose to the grindstone because your day will come. You just got
Yep.
to keep getting out of bed and keep focusing on the goal. That's it.
Even if you broke 4 ribs in August.
Yeah.
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 I've been I was looking at my numbers for the year, and it's like all of them are down by like 20%, 15, 20%, and it's almost all accounted for in that span of time after breaking my ribs. So,
Yeah.
which is kind of difficult going into winter, but whatever. Um, Outside of that, go and pick up yourself some buttonhole chamois cream. Go to your local retailer and pick it up wherever you can. If your shop doesn't carry it, have them call me. As always, like, subscribe, share, comment. We did get a comment, an email earlier about our impression of Masters doping, but we're going to save that one for a later point in time. So you can always send an email to roadisdead, all one word, roadisdead@gmail.com. And check out Tread Savvy for some deals. and that's pretty much it. Um,
Masters doping.
yeah,
There's
right.
nothing to say. Nothing
Yeah,
to say about it.
there's nothing really interesting to say about it. It was about the Roadman podcast guy talking about his post. And I remember seeing his post, but we can talk about it later. I did want to do a doping episode at some point with Mike because he wanted to do one, which I thought was interesting. And I, but I don't think either one of us really knows where we would take it at this point to start out with. But and there goes my air compressor.
Like meaning, just I mean like current like Mike's generation,
Yeah, I don't know.
of doping or the current generation because
I think it's interesting because Mike was on Garmin when it went to Europe, and that was the year when they were the clean team. You know, their whole thing that all that all precipitated the biological passport and all that stuff. I mean, he was there for that. And then I don't know if he remembers, but I've mentioned this before on here. I was with him at Elk Grove Village, a tour of Elk Grove one time, and during the time trial, and he got second, I think. And he literally, as riders are going by, he was just like, "Well, he's a doper. Well, he's not a doper. You know, he's fine." Or that guy just smokes weed. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. You know, that kind of thing. And he was so open about it and talking about it, just like, well, yeah, everybody knows, you know, kind of thing at the time. And I've always kind of wanted to delve a little bit further into that. But at the same time, it's kind of like, you know, has a statute of limitations passed far enough that he can mention names, or is he going to get into trouble? You know, are we going to go down, you know, the kind of road where I mean, that's where the interesting part of it is, but there'll never be a time when you can never really do that, you know? So I don't know, you know, it's one of those things, but you haven't lived in my opinion, you haven't lived until you've been sitting there and watched the vampires come up and go, okay, let's go. And which they did after that time trial. They came out and grabbed him while I was sitting there. It's like, yeah, you got to go drug test.
I got tested after one of the stages in Intelligentsia after Niles when when they had to stop at Niles. Like one of the first years they had Niles. It was only I think it was only in the series twice, and then they went somewhere else. Yeah, that was a weird experience. You know, commissary comes and finds you, stays with you for like however long it takes you to pee, and it took me like 3 hours after the race was over to even like get 10 drops out. You know, for like dehydration, but also for stage fright.
Yeah.
Like this dude's gonna come in the porta potty with me. This is a weird experience.
Yeah, it's gonna take a long time. We better not be talking. Can I stare at my phone?
Yeah. Yeah. So, but that'd be interesting to see. But like you said, it's for another day.
Yeah, and it's we got to look at how we would talk about it. I still think that we need to do.
Go ahead.
I still think that we need to do a USA Cycling one. But you know, when all the policy change came out this year, that turned that into the third rail of cycling, and it's like it's not really what I really wanted to talk about was how, you know, it seems like everybody's always got a problem with USA Cycling, and they had a problem with USCF back when it was USCF, and it's my contention that everybody would have a problem with any agency, you know, regardless of what it is, because it's like everyone has a problem with cycling. It's their own problem, and it has their own causes, and they feel like that's the only problem that faces every cyclist, and that our agency should be dropping everything to address their own specific need and problem. So it's one of these where I'm kind of wanting to challenge the idea that everyone thinks that USA Cycling is the devil, and it's like, well, what's it supposed to be like? You know, what in your mind, how does that work? You know, because I guarantee you it's different than this person's and that person's and that person's.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, the way I see it is could they be better? Yeah. Could they be worse? Certainly. But you know what? They provide a space for hundreds of thousands of people that like to race their bikes, an opportunity to race their bikes.
And I've never
genres of cycling. How can you be pissed on that?
And after all my years of being involved with it, both USA Cycling and cycling in general, I have never once really met. I'm sure there's stories that I've forgotten about, but I've never really once met anybody at that agency that does not want to improve or see the sport improve. You know,
Yeah,
it's
I think
but
we all want to see it improve.
but talking to everybody talk about it, it's like, oh well, they're a bunch of devils that just don't ever want to change anything, and they're stuck in their ways. And I've never met anybody like that there, so it's shortchanging the efforts of absolutely everybody that's ever worked there, in my opinion. Anyway, all right, well, that should do it for today. Thank you for joining us, and like I said, like, share, subscribe, and give us comments, and enjoy the ride. Merry Christmas.